Hey guys, it's Cosmo the Coder here, and first of all, apologies for the lateness of this video. Unfortunately, I had to take my wife for a scan in the evening on Tuesday and wasn't able to get back in time to actually make this video. So, yes, it's 2 days late, but fortunately, the bundle is actually fairly straightforward for me to talk about because it's actually on a different system. This week, it's the Humble Friends of Nintendo bundle, which sounds interesting, and it kind of is, but it's kind of going to be difficult for me to explain and review in the same way as I usually do, and hopefully you'll see why in just a minute. So let's get rid of these backgrounds here. Straight away then, at the $1 mark, you get 3 games: Retro City Rampage DX, Affordable Space Adventures, and Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Now, both Retro City Rampage and DX and Shantae are games that are also on Steam on PC, so we can talk about those fairly easy. Retro City Rampage DX is basically an 8-bit version of Grand Theft Auto. It's got lots of pop culture references in it. It's extremely well received. Based on what I've seen from the video and from what I've read from the reviews, the 3DS version is extremely honourable to the actual original PC version. Sorry, not honourable, faithful. That's it. And definitely worth a good romp if you want a sort of a portable game to play, similar to Grand Theft Auto on your 3DS. Affordable Space Adventures is based on what the video and the blurb and the general sort of review of it is, it's a game where you play as an astronaut in a spaceship flying around, as you can see from the trailer, as sort of various planets and things, using the Wii U gamepad to control different aspects of the ship, sort of power levels, shields, so on and so forth. You use this to solve puzzles, and basically that's it to a certain degree. It has got local co-op, which means you can have people assist you whilst you fly the ship. The Wii U pad basically can be used to operate the scanners, do all kinds of different little things on board the ship. It looks pretty cool, I have to admit. So, definitely worth a good look at if you have access to a Wii U. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is a 2D sort of platformer game where you basically play as a genie with rather long hair and can use it as a weapon. It's been extremely well received on PC and on Steam, and considering you did get both a Wii U and a 3DS version of the game, that sounds pretty damn good to me, especially for $1. And considering the reviews on Steam, the game is extremely well received, so definitely worth a good check out if you have access to either one of those systems. The better than average tier, now, Freedom Planet. Freedom Planet plays a lot like Sonic the Hedgehog, in that you basically control characters that can run at quite high speeds, jump, and basically collect things. But it has it's a bit more deeper than that. You play as different characters. There's a whole story narrative to it where you basically basically have to complete various adventures and things. You get to choose your characters and which paths you go through in the game. It has voice acting. It's quite a elaborate kind of game. I actually play this as an episode of Cosmo Tries Games, and my general feeling was that it's quite interesting, but maybe I needed to play some more of it to actually get the whole feel of it, because it took quite a while to actually open up the whole game, or at least get to this certain point where you started realizing you were taking part in quite a deep adventure. So generally, I can hardly recommend this game. It is on the Wii U, so it's not going to be very portable in terms of playing, but considering the size and the scope of the game, I can understand why. Rhythm Thief is a fairly simplistic game to describe. You basically use the 3DS's buttons as a way of pushing at different times to fight enemies and complete puzzles. It's a rhythm game. What more can you really say to that? If that's your kind of thing, heartily recommend it, but beyond that, I can't really say much more, to be honest with you. Citizens of Earth is on Steam. It's an RPG-esque game where you basically play as the vice president of the world. You recruit various citizens and you travel the world to try and solve the world's problems to a certain degree. It's quite quirky. It's quite interesting. It's quite well received on Steam, and as you can see from the video, the art style's pretty nifty too. It looks like I don't know what you want to call it, a 2D-esque cartoon book feel to the graphics. Now, one thing you have to be aware of, which has been mentioned quite a bit in some of the forums, don't get two versions of it. You get one. And when you do purchase it, it asks you to choose a Wii U's version or a 3DS version. You don't get both. You have to choose one or the other. Now, from what I understood, the 3DS version is a bad port of the Wii U version. It certainly runs worse than on the 3D on the Wii U. But I think that's going to have to come down to whether or not you have access to the Wii U or want it on Wii U over the 3DS. So your choice, basically, for that one. Retro City Rampage DX 3DS home menu theme. Can't really say much about it, apart from the fact that it's essentially makes sure 3DS look a bit 80s. What can I say more beyond that? Super Street Fighter 4 3D edition. Literally, beyond saying it's Super Street Fighter 4, I can't really say much more than this. It does utilize the 3D aspect of the Nintendo 3DS, but from what I've heard, it struggles to run at 60 frames per second if you use the 3D 3D effect. Some people have said that the best way to play it if you want it at 60 frames per second is to turn it off. There are some workarounds, but basically it is Super Street Fighter 4, and you get pretty much everything that it has existed in the actual game on any format. You get local and online multiplayer. It's a fairly good port from what I've understood, but it has some elements of problems with slowdown if you do the 3D stuff. And you can even spectate too, according to that video. So that's even more interesting if you really fancy that kind of thing. So generally speaking, I'm not into Street Fighter really in any capacity, so it's really down to how you feel about it. Darksiders 2. Now, Darksiders 2 is on PC. It was released quite a while ago, and it's basically a game where you play as Death, one of the legendary Four Horsemen, and you are working to try and restore mankind after the apocalypse has occurred because of basically there's been sort of betrayals and things going on. It's explained in the entire plot line and everything else, probably even the trailer if you actually could hear it. But it's actually quite a good game, and it has actually had a remastering because I think it's THQ went bust, didn't they? And Nordic Games took them over and re-released it. I think it was called the Definitive Edition, not just to sort of play on the fact that you play as Death. Which the actual re-release has fairly good reviews. There's been some issues with it, but overall the game itself is pretty damn good. It's kind of a shame that THQ went bust in the first place because it was quite a good series. I have heard rumours or rumblings that they may continue the series depending on how things go. Here's hoping, because I've seen some really good things from this game. Kind of looks like a God of War sort of game where you take on various monsters and everything, but not to the serious amount of scale as God of War. But that's just my sort of interpretation of things. Now, overall, I've been told that this bundle is quite a good deal for what it is. You're getting fairly good games, and for once, you can actually take part of it if you're outside of the US. The last time Humble did a bundle like this for Nintendo, it was limited to the US. But from what I understand, this is available in the EU, the UK, pretty much anywhere. So these codes that you get will work anywhere if you're anywhere in the world, apparently. So that is pretty good as well, because it was extremely limiting last time, and it's an extremely big turn-off for anyone outside the US wanting to play these kind of games. The games themselves appear to be pretty damn good. Or maybe not pretty damn good, I'll change that. Pretty good. Let's put it that way. They're not necessarily AAA games, but they are quite good games. So if you have a Wii U or 3DS, I say, and any of these games even interest you, for $13, you're getting a pretty good, sweet deal. So there you go. I can't really give you much more than that, and I'm not going to compare prices to things because it's not really worth it. It's beyond the scope. It's beyond my scope. PC gaming is what I am about. I can basically give you a feel for the bundle, but beyond that, I can't really say whether it's worthwhile or not, personally, because I'm not going to buy it because I own most of the games that are on Steam, and the ones that I don't own don't really interest me that much. So, the Devolver bundle from last week has added 2 new games, so I can talk about these now fairly easily. And that's my baby monitor going off. Let's turn that off. So, 2 games that have been added to the Devolver bundle, which are Ollie Ollie 2, Welcome to Ollywood, and Knocked. Ollie Ollie 2 is fairly simply a skateboard-esque runner game where you basically sort of what's the word, sort of you basically travel through a level doing various tricks, various I'm sorry, it's gone completely out of my head now what I was trying to say. So different tricks, different elements to try and score points, travel long distances. You know the general sort of game I'm talking about. It's one of those runner games where you can just pick up, start playing, and enjoy, and sort of survive for as long as you can. There's local multiplayer, and I believe there may be online multiplayer, but I'm not. Yeah, new multiplayer mode. Although it does say it's split screen, so it's got extremely good reviews. It's $10.99 on Steam. It's got quite a good soundtrack from what I understand. It's extremely well received, and it's a good sequel to the original Ollie Ollie. So if running games or skateboarding games are your forte, or just games that you can just pick up and enjoy a bit of a running-esque element to it, heartily recommend it. It actually looks pretty damn good. It's an early access game for starters, so just bear that in mind. And you basically is a top-down 2D multiplayer-esque game where you survive, where you basically have to survive after an apocalypse. So it's essentially sort of DayZ, or DayZ, sorry, where you play with other people and try and survive in a harsh environment. It looks like, and as you can see from the actual graphics, it looks like a sort of thermal imaging system where you can see the aliens or the creatures and everything else in a unique graphic style. It looks pretty good. From what I understand, it's extremely well received so far, and generally speaking, it looks good. I might not actually play it, but it's for $6.99. It's quite a good deal considering it's still just under $5. And based on what it looks like, it certainly looks like it's worth a good play. And it's only been out for about 6 months, so that's not bad actually, considering how long it's been out for. Generally speaking, it's not a huge addition to the actual bundle, but you know, most of the time the additions aren't. So overall, I'd say if the other games interest you, go for it. If you really want Ollie Ollie 2 or Knocked, go for it too. Why not? Alright guys, that's pretty much it for this week. Sorry again for it being late, and also the fact that it's a Nintendo's game. I mean, I was going to say, oh, it's horrible, it's Nintendo, but overall the actual bundle's not that bad. I'm quite impressed with some of the games, and the fact that it's available outside the US. That's also pretty damn good. And so that's about it. So hopefully back to usual time next week, Tuesdays, and also coming up not a week Friday is the next Humble Monthly Bundle. So by all means, keep an eye out for my review of that on Saturday after that. Thanks for watching, guys, as always, and I will hopefully see you next week for another Humble Bundle. As always, like, subscribe, comment, dislike, you know the usual drill, and I will continue making videos based on your reviews. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.